Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Edwin Carrion. Edwin is a God-made millionaire, family-oriented entrepreneur, and a dedicated mentor. With over 20 years of experience across various industries, including real estate development, transportation, and business consulting, Edwin has built multi-million-dollar companies while staying true to his core values of honor, courage, and commitment, principles he learned during his service in the United States Marines. Today, he's here to share his insights on achieving success without sacrificing family life or personal values. Hi, Edwin. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing, Sonia. Thank you for having me here. And to everybody listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're listening on.
I'm excited to have you on the show today and go through all the questions I prepared and have a fantastic conversation. Before we get there, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Edwin Carrion, born and raised in Quito, Ecuador. Was very fortunate enough to come to the United States, raised by a single mother on a very, very humble home. Now I'm a loyal husband, loving father to two beautiful girls, a former United States Marine, and a serial entrepreneur, investor, and mentor.
Awesome. So I know that when I was going through your bio and preparing for this, you've worked in a lot of different industries, you've started companies, and you've done a lot. So hopefully we can cover most of that. But the first question I have for you is, can you share a pivotal moment when you realized the importance of balance in life and how it influenced your approach to entrepreneurship and mentorship?
Yes, I think the biggest moment, and it's skipping a lot, right? Into the moment that I became bankrupt, when I went bankrupt. That's the moment that I realized that I worked too much, and I had nothing to show for. I mean, I worked like crazy to become successful, to become what success meant to me at that time, meaning to have a lot of money, create millions of dollars. And then from one day to the next, losing everything and just being bankrupt and I had nothing to show for. At that moment, I realized that I needed to have a balance in my life because at that moment I was overweight. I didn't have a good relationship with my family. I didn't have a good relationship with God. And I think I broke up with my girlfriend at that time as well. So like everything went wrong. And I realized it's like, I didn't have a balance. I was so focused and so consumed into becoming rich financially that I put everything else aside.
So do you feel like you were doing the hustle and you were missing everything that was important for your life and your body and things like that?
Yes, definitely. I realized that in order for us to have a successful life, it doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of money in the bank account. It means that you have to live life to the fullest, like I call it, meaning that, do everything you always dreamed of, make sure that you check off in your checklist everything that you wanted as a little kid, that you wanted to have, that you wanted to do. Make sure you do it. And just a quick example of that was that when I was becoming very rich and making all this money, I was able to have my dream car, which is a Lamborghini at that time. And I chose not to have it because I'm like, no, I want to continue making more money so like that I could buy more cars. And then, from one day to the next, I was bankrupt and I wasn't even able to buy my dream car at that moment. So then I realized that, you know what? As I'm going through the journey, I have to focus on the thing that I want, and I have to focus and just start, giving myself those rewards of the things that I always wanted in my life.
Got it. So how do you prioritize family while managing multiple successful businesses? And what strategies do you employ to maintain a healthy work-life balance?
In order to have a healthy work-life balance, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs talk about there's no such a thing as having a balanced life. And to me, I hate when I hear that, is because their focus and their priorities are not aligned. meaning that to me, you have to set boundaries in life. And I think it doesn't do you any good to be really successful and have a sucky marriage or have an amazing marriage and be poor. You have to have everything that you want. And can you have everything that you want in life? Yes, but you have to make sure that you set boundaries for that. And to me, one of the things that I learned is that I learned that I needed to set boundaries. And to me, what are my boundaries? Setting times. It doesn't do me any good to sit in my office 12 hours a day if I'm only going to be very, what's the word? I can't remember the word, but if I'm only going to be very, what's it called? If I'm only going to do a lot of the good work within the first 3 hours,
Right.
I can't remember that word right now. The words are going off my head at this
Good.
moment. Productive. There you go. Very
Yeah.
productive. See, it doesn't do me any good to be 12 hours in my office if I'm only going to be productive 6 hours. I'd rather come into my office and work 6 good hours and be productive as I can, and then take the rest of the day and spend it with my family and be present with them. So it's setting those boundaries that have really led me to having the balanced life.
Right. So when you're mentoring, inspiring entrepreneurs or people that are starting on that journey, they feel like they have to hustle in order to be successful. That's sort of the mindset in general that I find with people that are going into business. They have too much to lose, and so they give it everything they got until, years down the road they hit, a burnout. So at an early stage, what do you tell founders and entrepreneurs on how to still work hard to achieve what they're trying to do, but have that balance?
Yes, the first thing is, and I like what you said, is they're hustling, right?
Yeah.
And we always grew up with hustling because to us, hustling means making money. So
Yeah.
we have to find out where can we make money, and then we go into the next shiny thing and like, oh no, no, this is making money right now. Let's jump into that. And that's the hustle mentality. And what you have to realize is you have to come to the realization that in order for you to be able to make good money and consistent money, it takes time. So instead of looking for the instant gratification, we look for the delayed gratification
Mm.
and could be consistent on that. So to me, one of the things that really has helped me is being a real estate developer really taught me how to look and understand what a delayed gratification is versus an instant gratification. So to kind of give you a really good perspective on that. As a wholesaler or as a house flipper, they go up, they buy a property, they put a little bit of paint on it, they sell it, and they make money right away. They're looking for that instant gratification. They have to be doing that every single time to make money, right? So
Mm.
meaning that every flip they make $10,000, they have to do 10 flips a year to make 100K, but they have to do 10 times the work.
Yeah.
For me, as a real estate developer, I buy a piece of land, I build one house. The house is going to take me 12 months to 24 months, but I'm only doing one project. I'm working very little, so I have those boundaries set, so I have plenty of time to spend with my family. But when I get to sell the house, I get that delayed gratification, which is maybe $1 million or $2 million into that one project. So to me, it's more of a delayed gratification versus the instant gratification. And that's one of the things that I learned, that instead of having the hustle mentality of figuring out where's the next shining object, where can I make the quick bucks,
Mm.
I stay consistent into the things that I'm doing. And that's why I've been a real estate developer for over 22 years now.
Okay. I know you talked about going bankrupt and things that you learned from there, but could you share a specific example of a challenge or a setback that you faced in your journey, and how did you overcome it? What were the lessons that you learned from that experience?
Um,
Yeah.
Challenges and setbacks. I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, we face many challenges throughout our journey.
Yeah.
And challenges, I think from me mentoring and really getting into the mentoring business for the past couple of years, one of the biggest challenges that I noticed, and I even face that challenge, is that as entrepreneurs, we come to a point where we hit a ceiling, meaning that we get to this amount of revenue, we get to $100,000 revenue, we get to $500,000 revenue, we get to $1 million revenue, and we hit a ceiling that
Mm.
is hard for us to get through that ceiling. And we have to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to become and who do I need in my life at that moment in order for me to help me scale and go past through that ceiling, go to the next phase of my life, get to the next point of my life, because we're always going to encounter that ceiling. And the point is that we have an ego inside of us as entrepreneurs that nobody could do anything as good as we can. And until we don't let go of that ego, until we don't have somebody else teach us what do we need to do, who do we need to become in order to become better and be able to pass through that meeting, or hire somebody to be able to help us break through that ceiling, is never going to happen. We're always going to be on that constant cycle.
Yeah. So you're saying find people to help you and hire the right people when you hit that plateau.
Yes, hire the right people, hire the right mentors, put the right people in place on the right seats, make sure that they're qualified for the job, make sure that they're smarter than you are. And it's always good to work with people that are smarter than you.
Yeah, for sure. So, you emphasize you have values of honor, courage, and commitment, which you gained from your time in the United States Marines. How do these values translate into your approach to leadership and mentorship?
Um, I carried those before I even went into the military. They weren't just as defined as they are now. And at the beginning, when I started one of my major companies, I had like a list of 20 values. But then I realized with just a couple of words, it could mean so much. And one thing that on those values that you missed out was the faith part. So to me, everything starts with faith, believing in God, understanding that we were created as God, so we were created as the equal image of God. That means that we're perfect, that we're able to accomplish anything. We start believing in ourselves that way, then there's nothing that we're not able to accomplish in our life. And then from there it goes into, like you said, the honor, courage, commitment. Honor means that doing everything, you do it the right way. And when you start really honing down to your values and really sticking to those values, the right people are going to come into your world, and the people that don't fit within those values are going to walk away, and those are the ones that are going to drag you down. So how do I implement those into my life every single day? It's just being an honorable person, being a person that is of trust, that keeps their word, that does things that they say they're going to do, committed to my work, committed to my life, committed to my family, committed to my kids, committed to my wife. Those commitments carry a long way, because it's not do what I say, but do what I do. And I really believe in that. And the last one is courage. We're afraid, as humans, we're afraid of so many things in our lives. And having that courage is going to dictate how you look at life. You either look at life as exciting, as having fear, because we could do the same thing together and have different outcomes. You and I could jump on a roller coaster today, and I could have fear and have the worst experience in life, and you're gonna love that and have the best experience in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So that courage gives you the ability to realize, how do I want to live my life? Do I want to always live in fear, or do I want to live in excitement? Being an entrepreneur it causes a lot of anxiety, it causes a lot of fear. But at the same time, such an adrenaline rush is such a beautiful thing that you're able to create something from nothing and make it into this huge company. And as an employee, it's the same thing. Helping somebody, helping an entrepreneur grow, and you bringing your ability to be able to be a great asset to them, to be able to create this amazing company.
So, what advice do you have for someone who may be going through what you went through, which is, hustled, worked really hard, now hitting bankruptcy? Obviously, I can tell just in our conversation, you have a very specific type of personality. Obviously, I can see you're not you don't give up easily, but for those people who are in a similar place and they don't have that personality and they're about to give up, what advice do you give them to overcome that challenge and how to keep moving? Because you could have given up and just gone and found a job and been an employee instead of continuing on your entrepreneurial journey, but you chose that path for a reason.
It was back in really honing in into yourself. Again, believing in yourself, understanding that you are capable of doing anything that you want in your life. Your beliefs limit the person that you are. And then figuring out and looking, if you are in a bad situation, let's talk about you're in the situation that you're about to go bankrupt. Step back and look at your business from a bird's eye view and figure out, what did I do wrong? And stop blaming everybody else. Stop being the victim, because that's what happens to a lot of people. They want to blame the government. They want to blame the economy. They want to blame the financial system. They want to blame their employees. But at the end of the day, the ultimate person that has to take responsibility for that is you. So the moment we start taking our own responsibility for that, put it in our God's hands and say, you know what do I need to do to fix this? Let's not look for a plan B. Let's not look for something else to do. Let me figure out, what do I need to do to fix this? And you start fixing that little by little. Eventually, that's going to turn around, because everything in life has a cycle. If you really think about things,
Mm.
everything has a cycle. Everything has a good cycle and a bad cycle. And right now, you might be facing that bad part of your life, that bad cycle. But
Mm.
if you stick around, if you're consistent enough, if you keep grinding at it, if you keep going at it, little by little, you're going to start coming out of that. But the most important thing out of that is that if you don't know how to get out of that, find somebody that has been there, that has gone through that, that is where you want to go to, and get help from that person. Hire that person, ask him to mentor you, figure out what they did in order for you to be able to pick one or two things from them and be able to apply that to your life to get you there.
So, talking about mentorship, one of the common things I always hear is, people say go get a mentor, but it's not easy to find a mentor. First of all, they don't have the money to hire a mentor. And I think they might be they don't know the direction of where to go to find a mentor. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what are some of the things that people who maybe don't have the money but need a mentor, what can they do to sort of get someone who's willing to mentor them?
Okay. And fortunately, for all the entrepreneurs nowadays, the new ones, the ones that are listening to us today, you're very blessed and you're very lucky, because you have so much access to
Mm.
so much information, so much mentors out there, that when I started 20 plus years ago into the entrepreneurship, there wasn't a lot of access for that. But
Yeah.
nowadays, for example, in the United States, you have a SCORE, SCORE, means Senior Core Retired Executives, that you could go in there and you could just fill out a form, and they'll assign you a free mentor to guide you through whatever phase of the business you're having difficulties with, whether it's marketing, sales, startup, whatever it is. They guide you. They have free communities. And if you have no money and you don't know where to find a mentor, find somebody within your community, within your friends. Ask, hey, let's say I'm in the transportation business. Do you know anybody in transportation? Yeah, I have this guy. He owns 5 trucks. I only own 1 truck. That's a mentor right there, because he's 5 steps ahead of me. I don't have to find the guy that owns 100 trucks. I have to find the guy that owns 5 trucks. So like that, I go from 1 to 5. The moment I go from 1 to 5, okay, do you know anybody that owns 10 trucks? And go in there and network with them and build a relationship. And that could be your mentor. And then if you really value their time and you're able to pay for their time, then tell them, hey, I want you to mentor me. Let me pay you for this. And
Mm.
most of the time, people are going to say, no, it's okay. I'll mentor you for free. And because a lot of times, as we're getting to a certain level in our life, I given so much mentorship away for free throughout my lifetime. But the one thing that I understand nowadays, that I do this as a business, because I understand that people don't value what is free, because
Yeah.
I didn't value free before. So when you pay for something, you're really gonna make sure that you pay attention and you do what people tell you. A lot of times when we get free mentorship, we'll say, "Oh, thank you for that," but we don't take any action.
That's true. That's actually a really good point that you just made. Yeah, I like that. But, if you're just starting out and you don't have the funds, there are ways around it until you can afford it and be able to get a mentor to help you on an ongoing basis.
Yes.
So as a public speaker, how do you ensure that your message resonates with diverse audiences around the world? And what techniques do you use to connect people from different backgrounds?
I think the biggest thing is always talking about those pain points, right? And I think as humans, we're all interconnected one way or another. And when I talk about being raised by a single mother, I think there's a lot of people in this world, unfortunately, that have been raised by one parent, whether it's a mother or a father. So we're kind of like start building those connections there, right? As
Mhm.
an immigrant, I immigrated from Ecuador to the United States. I became an immigrant, and now I'm immigrated from the United States to Colombia because that's where I live right now. So we start connecting those dots together, and we start realizing that, hey, he's no different than me. He was raised by a single parent. He comes from a third world country. He comes from no money. So now we start kind of connecting and understanding that I'm not this superhuman person that you see on stage, because when people see you on stage, they perceive you as this God image person, or this wow person, or this star, like a movie star. But you have to make sure that you humble yourself down and make them understand that I am just like you. I'm another human being just like you, that wakes up every morning out of bed, puts on their pants, puts on regular clothes like you do, but I work my butt off, and I am where I am because of my faith in myself, my faith in God, and my values, and my determination to become successful. And how did I do it? There's a strategy to that, and I help them understand what the strategy is and what the steps are for them to become successful.
Awesome. I love it. So mentorship plays a significant role in your mission. Obviously, we've talked about that. You help professionals and entrepreneurs achieve success. What qualities do you look for in a potential mentee, and how do you tailor your guidance to meet their individual needs?
Yes, the first thing that I look for, and because one of the commodities that we have that is extremely limited is time, right? So
Mm,
I value my time a lot. So one of the first things that I do whenever I'm going to mentor somebody, especially when I'm doing my one-on-one mentoring, is that I have to make sure that they fall within my beliefs and my values. I don't want to mentor anybody that doesn't fall within my beliefs or my values. Because number one, I will do them a disservice. Number two, they're doing themselves a disservice of working with somebody that they're not aligned with. That's number one. Number two, I have to understand why is it that they want to scale their business? What's in it behind their way of scaling? Is it just because of money, or is it because of something else? And
mm,
a lot of times, a lot of people come to me because all they want is the money at the beginning. But when you really start digging down deep, it's more than that. It's just more than that. It's what is the way of life that you want to live? And once that way of life becomes aligned to what I'm able to offer to them, then that's the perfect mentee for me. And the reason I do that and I go through that strategic process is because at the end of my mentoring with them, there's a certain shift in a relationship between mentor and mentee. And
mm.
now it becomes as a business partner, or as a good friend, where I'm able to invest my own capital with them in future projects or future things that they're doing.
That's awesome. So, in your experience, what are some common misconceptions or myths about achieving success as an entrepreneur, and how do you debunk them in your mentorship sessions?
I mean, the first one I think is one of the biggest ones, is like, I don't have the money to do it, or I don't have the money to grow. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I noticed from a lot of entrepreneurs. That's number one. Number two is the knowing how. And you mentioned at the beginning of this program that I run multiple companies and in multiple industries, right?
Mm,
So I wasn't an expert at transportation when I got in the transportation business. I had no idea about real estate development when I got into the real estate development business. I had no idea about the gold buying business when I got into the gold buying business. So that's a big misconception, that you have to know the business before you get into something. And I teach them those things, and also teach them that to put their ego away, because the biggest thing that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back from growth and success is the ego that they have.
mm.
Understanding how to let go of that ego and being able to delegate as much as they can.
Yeah. I mean, also, I find that a common thing that I've experienced with entrepreneurs is the founder is very attached to what they're building and what they're doing, and they have a very hard time trusting other people, even though they've hired people to do the jobs for them. I've had this mentality in my past where it's like, if you want the job done right, you got to do it yourself, right?
And,
But
and that's the ego that I'm talking about.
yeah,
That's the entrepreneur ego.
right. But it's sometimes it can be really hard to overcome for entrepreneurs because like that's their baby too.
Yes. Uh, and when you talked about that's their baby, it is their baby. But
Yeah.
what happens when you have a kid? And I understand nowadays because I'm a father, right? When you have a kid, your kid is going to grow up. And the moment that it grows up, you have to let them do its own thing. You
Yes.
have to let them go because, your kid is going to go to college and is going to find somebody else, is going to get married, and it has to live their own life. So the same thing for your baby, your business. Your business has to grow. If you don't give it space to grow, you're always going to keep it as a baby. So you have to let it grow. You have to figure out, okay, they need to find a boyfriend, they need to find a girlfriend. And the girlfriend is going to be somebody that's not going to be you. And eventually you have to let that business go. And what is that letting that business go means? It's selling that business, having that exit strategy so you're able to sell that business and you're able to buy your time back.
Having it as a concept of a child that grows, that really, I think that really resonates with a lot of people.
Yes, yes.
So before we wrap up, let's get into my last question for you. What advice do you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who may be hesitant to pursue their dream due to fears of compromising their personal values or sacrificing family life for success?
Okay. What advice do I give to them? I don't like giving advice, but I will share from a personal experience. To me,
Mhm.
my personal experience that I'd rather make $1 a day than having somebody tell me what I'm worth. And with that being said, meaning that I choose to live my life by my design. I want to know the type of life that I want to live. And if you want to do the same thing for you, if you want to live the life that you dreamed of, you have to take the risk. And the risk is maybe going out on your own, or maybe going out and finding a better job that you're more qualified for. So it's taking that risk, taking that chance, and believing in yourself that you're capable of building something. And if you're an employee and you work at the same company for 10 years, you have so much experience that you could capitalize on that experience and bring it onto the market and create something incredible. So don't be afraid of taking that risk, taking that chance, and believing in yourself, because at the end of the day, you are your biggest asset and you are able to create anything that you set your mind to.
Yeah, I agree with you on we are our own biggest asset, but we can also be our own worst enemy. And sometimes I find that because of the way people have been raised, I'll include myself. I was talking to someone the other day, and she said to me, she lived the way she had been raised, caused her to have severe fear, and so much so that fear would paralyze her to do things that normal people would do, but she was not willing to take risks because of that fear. How can someone overcome some of those things, or what are the steps to start dealing with that?
Yes. I think all of us as humans, we are raised with different traumas,
Yes.
right? Whether it's negative traumas, what I'm talking about, because unfortunately, our parents weren't as educated as we are. And if we go back another generation prior to that, is the same thing, right? And especially where we come from, especially, I'm going to talk about me. Like, my mother is an amazing woman, is a great entrepreneur, but uh, I think she only did all school until 5th grade. That's all the education that she had, right? She had no more education. She had to raise 2 kids on her own. So as we were growing up, my uncles, my aunts, they will tell me money doesn't grow on trees. You can't be rich, and you have all these negative statements, right? And then they'll beat you up, if you do anything. So a lot of people have grown up that way, and with those traumas of fear, because their parents are fear, they fear something, then they put that fear into their kids. So how do we break that? How do we break those things? We have to learn from the good and the bad. We learn from the good and we take the good and we implement it into our lives. We
Mhm.
learn from the bad of the things that we don't want in our life, and we figure out and we hire somebody that's going to help us overcome that. So when I talk about a mentor, I don't only talk about a mentor of business. I talk about a mentor of everything. Like for me, I've been married for 12 years now, actually 13 years now. And growing up with a single mother, not having a stable marriage at home, not having a marriage at home at all, my chances to have a successful marriage are slim to none.
Yes.
But in order for me to have a marriage that I have right now, I have to do a lot of counseling. We have to go to therapists. Uh, so we had to work on our marriage. We had to work on my communication skills with my wife because I didn't know how to communicate with my significant other. I wasn't raised with that. So in order for us to get through the traumas, we have to seek the help because we know what we're lacking. But if you don't seek the help of an expert, somebody that could help you, you're never going to get through that. And you're always going to keep those fears, and you're never going to be successful, not only in business, but in life. So we have to figure out what do we need to do. And I always talk about, and I believe a lot in mentors, because for me to be a good father, a father that is present, not ever having a father around in my life, meaning that I had to figure out how to be a father. I don't know what that is. So I had to look up at other people that have been married for 20 years, that have been good fathers, that have good kids, and figure out what do they do and what do I need to do to have that relationship with my kids and to be a good dad.
Yeah, I mean, you looked for people that were what you wanted to be, right? And you took
Yes.
example. I read a book the other day, which was something similar, but it was about, your relationship with money. Growing up, when you hear your parents make comments like money doesn't grow on trees, it creates a bad relationship with money, because we always think that money is hard to get and it's a struggle to get and that you almost don't deserve it. So in this book, she's talking about how we have to change our mentality around how our relationship with money, that it's not a bad thing, and that if you have it, you shouldn't feel guilty about it.
Yes, and I love your example of a money doesn't grow on trees, because uh, to counter that, for example, I was told that plenty of times growing up, right? And to counter that, when I had my jewelry business, one of our key features in our jewelry business was we had a tree, we had a money tree. So we had a little tree that had a bunch of $100 bills on it. So when people walk in, it's like, oh, money does grow on trees. And we're like, yes, money grows on trees. So we kind of like break that mentality cycle by looking at things the way that we want to look at them.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Edwin, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really inspiring, and I'm sure our audience is going to absolutely love it. Before we wrap up, can you tell us how to find you, how to reach out, all of the information? I'm going to put everything on the links, but if you want to share.
Sonia, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And to everybody listening, thank you. If you want to reach out to me, you could find me on all the social media channels, Edwin Carrion 78, or you could go to my website at Edwin Carrion, and make sure you download my free ebook, 9 Secrets for a Successful Life and Business. It's a book that all my millionaire friends, myself, and a lot of my students, they live by, they learn by, and it's going to teach you the 9 secrets. How do you have that successful life? How do you have a successful business? And what are the main things that you really have to focus on?
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much. And I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you for having me. Have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you. I want to extend a thank you to Edwin for joining us today and sharing the importance of balance in both life and business. The core values of honor, courage, and commitment that can guide our actions, and the idea that success doesn't have to compromise your personal values or family life. Edwin's journey reminds us that we can achieve our entrepreneurial dreams while maintaining our integrity and fulfilling relationships. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.